In my last video, I introduced you to several logical connectives. We had not, which we wrote like this. We had and, which we typically write like this. We had an inclusive or, which we wrote like this. And then we had an exclusive or, which we wrote like this. Okay? So now let's introduce a couple more connectives. So the first one's will be called implication. And we typically write it like this. And we say it like this. A implies B. Now I would like to point out, just like with some of these other symbols, not all authors use the same exact symbology. Okay? So I do know some authors that use this symbol here for this, for implication, and use this kind of arrow for something else. But there's other authors that use this symbol. It's supposed to be more of an arrow. This symbol for implication. Okay? So for implication, I'm going to use the one that's not thick. Okay? Now in English, so if we had a word problem, what would represent this? Well, we might see such things as, if A, then B. We might see A is a sufficient condition for B. We might actually see what I wrote here. A implies B, and there's some others. Okay? The truth table for this is this. So we have true, 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 false, false, true, false, false. Right? Now let's look at what we have here. So, of course, these values in this column represent the entire statement here. So if A is true and B is true, then A implies B is true. If A is true and B is false, then the statement itself is false. But the two that are really going to mess with your head, but it's how they're defined, is that if A is false, it doesn't matter what B is. The statement is considered true. Okay? So the way I remember this table is basically I just remember this one, and then everything else is true. All right? Now be careful here to note that if we have A implies B is true, this does not mean that B implies A. Because look right here. If B is true and A is true, well, yeah, I got true. But right here I have B is false, but A was true. B is false down here, but now A is false. And B here is true, but A is false. So you can't look at B and determine what A is going to be. Okay? Not in isolation. So there's implication. That's a logical connective. We have another one that's called the biconditional. And we write it like this. And once again, some authors may use other symbologies. Some people may use this kind of arrow, or two-headed arrow. We won't use that. So what does this mean? Well, what it actually means is this. We have A implies B, and we have B implies A. Or excuse me, this right here. Okay? So what's the truth table for this? Well, let's look and see. So we have A and B. True, 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 false, false, true, false, false. right? So we know if we ask what is A implies B, this one is false and the other three are true. If we ask what is B implies A, then B is true, A is false. That means the statement has to be false and the other three are true. And now when we have the and, so A implies B and B implies A. Because of the and, this has to be true and this has to be true for them both to be true. So true and true is true, false and true is false, true and false is false, true and true is true. Okay? How might you see this in a word problem? So we might have A if and only if. B might have if A, then B, and if B, then A. This, of course, is the one that matches up closest to this right here, right? A implies B, if A, then B. You might even have A is a necessary and sufficient condition for B. And some others. But I think these are the most common ones. Okay? So we just introduced implication, which is, I'm going to write like this, and this is fairly standard. And the biconditional connective. And it's fairly standard to write like this. And in an upcoming video, we'll start putting all these things together and doing stuff with them.